on the flight here of our shuttles. I've got.
Ask the audience if we have sound now.
Okay, Marty, would you hand me or hand around there? I left my notes in the printer over there too. So we're live again, and the words are flowing. Thank you, Selvin. Oh no, there should have been something else in there. Doggone it. Okay.
Sound back. Okay, we're good.
Sounds back. We're sorry for that little delay there, but
Okay, we can pick up the count again.
we can pick up the count again. Indeed, we're going to talk about these dominoes, as if you will, or those shields back there. And what are they technically called?
The T0 masts.
T0 masts. Okay, and the zeros for.
Well, that's when they separate from the orbiter. This is where the orbiter has its connections to the ground. So for fueling, for purging, for the air conditioning, we had to maintain all of the internal parts of the orbiter at certain temperatures, so we had to keep it air conditioned out there at the launch pad. And this is where the air conditioning goes through to the forward, which is where the crew module is, and the mid-body and the aft. So not only for the crew, but while we were out there working at the pad, the technicians like to be air conditioned and have breathing air as well. So also pneumatics, data, and the electrical needs are all fed through this. And when it comes down to launch, when the boosters ignite, this separates and it's drawn back into that gray portion you're looking at right behind my head, the tail service mast, and then a clamshell door slams down over it to protect it from the exhaust from the boosters and the engines when they go by it.
And that's it in a recap there. We're going to see a little more detail with some pictures there with our little audio hiccup there. I got a little out of sequence and want to thank GoHistoryTravel.org for their support of our Stay Curious program. Ram Mal and their son Bharat out there always receiving a lot at the Kennedy Space Center. They're all over the country and the world. Great little place to learn about history and places you may want to go. And of course we got our shuttle garage there with Terry there, as you see inside the actual garage. And those levels there are different levels, the access points there, right, Terry?
Yes, sir. Once we got it in position and got it up to its maintenance height, then all these platforms would be lowered or extended out to the orbiter so we could close the gap up to less than 12 inches.
Wow.
We preferred 6 inches, and that way we didn't have to wear fall protection while we're working on the orbiter.
Well, there are 10 beautiful shuttles of the month of May, Terry. Unbelievably, of the 5 orbiters, OV-99, which of course is Challenger, and OV-102, Columbia, were shut out. No flights. 5 flights for Atlantis, 2 for Endeavour, and 3 for Endeavour and 2 for Discovery. This is the only month where Discovery doesn't have equal or more than any other shuttle in there. But hard to turn back the hands of time and remember all these missions there. The Hubble telescope, I know, sticks out at 125. Any others stick out there to you?
Well, STS-49, the first launch of Endeavour.
1992.
Yeah, and Endeavour was the replacement for Challenger. So, yeah, it was pretty interesting on there. And one day while I was at work, I went by the ops desk, and a gentleman who was there who I thought was working, but he looked at me and he says, "Hey, where'd you get that hat?" I was wearing a hat that had a embroidery of the orbiter, and it said Endeavour on it. And I said, "Well, there's a store space shirts right outside the gate. You can go down there and get one." And he says, "Well, I can't get down there." And I said, "Well, how did you get here?" I said, "You had a car, didn't you?" He says, "No, I flew in a T-38. And I said, "Okay." I said, "Who are you?" And he said, "Tom Akers." And he pointed to the mission patch, which was behind the ops desk. And he says, "See, that's me. I'm on this flight." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Yeah, I can make arrangements to get you a hat." And he goes, "Okay." He said, "But I need one for all the crew members." So we went up to my office and he told me what colors he wanted in that. And so I said, "Well, they'll be right here on my desk." I said, "I'll get you the employee discount there." And he said, "No problem." So
that is an awesome story. Tom Akers
Yeah.
did the only 3-person spacewalk with Thout and Hebe.
Yeah.
All right. And our good friend Bruce Melnick was on that flight there, too. Bruce proudly says he designed the patch of there. So,
They want to explain the ops desk.
the what?
Ops desk.
Okay, the ops desk is the operation desk. It was the check-in point for everyone coming in to go to work. So you had to go in there to tell them what you were working. Now, the technicians, we were assigned work areas in there, and they didn't need to stop at the ops desk because they were working tasks that were on the schedule. But anyone else coming in had to go through the ops desk to coordinate the tasks that they were working.
Thank you, Marty, for clearing that up there. You got the UCAC microphone there if you want to chime in, too, on there. I'm going to advance again here to brag a little bit about which one's Terry there and who are the two NASCAR stars. And,
With all your time in NASCAR, you know that.
well, I had a hard time figuring out which one was you. I knew it wasn't the young guy on the right, but on the left is, of course, Dale Earnhardt, and to the right is Richard Petty. 1 and 2 of the heroes of NASCAR for sure, and that is you rocking a glowing mustache there.
Yeah, the mustache
Actually,
didn't have as much gray in it then.
No.
But that's me with the hat on, and then next to me in the orange shirt is my younger brother. He was a supervisor.
What's his name?
Larry.
Yeah, hey, Larry.
And he's got the hat on, and then the next one is Ralph, and he was a NASA quality. So.
Well, that was those Wrangler Jean car days, I guarantee you.
Yes.
Chevy days for Earnhardt, and of course the famous blue Dodge of Richard Petty. What are you doing there? What's the king having his hand there?
Yeah, well, this was a Sunday evening, and there was a guy that was escorting him around, and he says, "Hey, I got some drivers over here that would like to know a little bit more about the orbiter." So the three of us walked over there and explained to them. They're holding tile there to see what they feel like in that. But we took them on a nice tour and answered all their questions about the orbiters.
Huh. It had to be around 83, 85 time period probably in there, but so forth. Well, we love a blast back in time and bragging a little bit about you. You've always been involved with the public relations of talking to dignitaries. You told us last month that President Barack Obama knows that you're rocking a mustache like that.
Yeah. But, not only Obama, heads of states from other countries, and a lot of sports stars, movie stars, and especially the military. NASA was really good about military members coming and escorting them around and answering their questions.
Yes.
Have the audience check as how the audio is going. Doug Forrest is saying that spotty, some words are dropping out. I think it might be just on his side.
Okay. Well, we're going to give you a 1, 2, 3 check there. In fact, let me do this. I'm going to turn it off. Turn it back on. And see if that helps us out a little
That
bit
may
there.
have caused us to drop out totally.
Now what?
That may have caused us to drop out totally.
Well, we're back on here. Just to check. I see it there. Okay. All right. Well, a few engineering problems here. Can we continue?
Yes, that's
There.
good.
Okay. Well, on a sad note, Terry, somebody that you told me that you met a few times, passed away Friday, Sam Durant's. Of course, and we were the family. This is an astronomer that built this telescope that flew to space twice on STS 35 and 67, and his friends are trying to restore, his friends being the people in the orbital and checkout facility that put this telescope in the payload bay. You were involved with that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Some of it. Instead of flowers, the family requests donations to the astrorestorationproject.org or checks mailed to 2509 Toups, Toups Trail in Titusville, Florida on there. So met Sam a couple times myself, a great help to our museum. Even before I came here, you said that you would see him.
Yeah, and his story is interesting about becoming an astronaut, because after college he went to work and he had no desire to be an astronaut, but he had worked on building the telescope, and NASA came to, there was not only the telescope he was working on, there was another telescope as well, but they said, look, it will take us a long time to train an astronaut how to operate the telescope. We can train you what is necessary for you to fly into space as an astronaut
Wow.
in a lot less time. So Sam and someone from the other company, they were trained and they got to fly on the flight with their telescope and then go up there and operate the telescope. And he got to fly on 2 flights when his telescope was going up.
And Scott Vongen was his backup. We did a show with Scott Vongen, and Mikey Haddad is the payload, a guy that wrote the book on payloads. Just about the character of Sam Durrance. A lot of his friends characterize him as brilliant, but somebody didn't want to flaunt it in a crowd there. And his humility extended to putting credit on his colleagues for some of his work in there.
He was that kind of guy.
And Mikey Haddad said that he'd love to hear him tell stories. He was a great storyteller, and most astronomers do have a lot of stories to tell. So
yeah, and he was one of the ones when he was astronaut of the day, he would always come up and see who was up there answering questions for the guests up at the Atlantis exhibit, and he'd always come up to say hi.
Yeah, big supporter of the Delaware Norse Astronaut Encounter Program. So rest in peace, Sam. And those of you that want to make a contribution, we'll have put this on Facebook, and we're going to be reminding you a few more times. We're going to talk about, we're talking about people going to space in the shuttle. Astronauts have become many of our heroes. We inducted Roy Bridges and Mark Kelly underneath our icon of freedom there, the beautiful Atlantis there at Kennedy Space Center. And Marty's in the crowd in there somewhere. And what an event. But, you encountered an astronaut that said to remind people that astronauts have heroes too.
Yeah. When the astronaut of the day at the visitor center has a luncheon and guests can sign up for the luncheon, and they go in there and the astronaut will talk to them while they're eating their lunch. And each astronaut tells a different story. Some of them talk about what it took for them to become an astronaut. Some of them talk about what it was like on a particular flight net. But I would generally go over there and sit down and have a cup of coffee and listen to them, because it helped me answer questions that people might ask about what happens in space. Having never been there, I relied on the astronauts, so I liked hearing their presentations. And I was there one day when Steve Smith was the astronaut of the day. In the middle of his presentation, he stops talking and he just looks out at the audience, and they're looking around like, what? He says, even astronauts have heroes. And he says, my hero is sitting right there. And he points at me, sitting in the luncheon area, and he says, it's people like Terry White who came here and did such an excellent job of getting the orbiters ready for flight, making sure everything works so that we could safely go to space, accomplish our mission, and come back home. So he said, we feel that the people that did this for all these years are really the heroes of the program. And then after the luncheon, he came over and talked to me. He says, by the way, he said, you now have an assignment. He said, you need to go around, and anytime you see other space shuttle workers or you're at any type of event where they're there, you need to tell them that they are a hero and tell them why they are.
That's awesome. There's a picture of Steve up there. Marty, we've seen him at the Astronaut Encounter. Quite an energetic guy, great speaker out there. He's coming back next week, I believe. So we'll look forward to seeing Steve. Maybe we can go out there together. Yep. And see him. We'd love to take him to dinner maybe with you afterwards there. So did you ever hook up with Harrington? Oh, you went out and saw John Harrington out there.
Yeah, I had breakfast with him or coffee with him in the morning. So
great, good. Well, we've got an astronaut's happy birthday as we put the happy birthday logo up there with the astronaut pin, and that is Ellen Ochoa. Welcome to the golden years, Ellen. She turned 65 years old today. Breaking the glass ceiling is the first Hispanic female astronaut and second female director at NASA's Houston Johnson Space Center. Dr. Ellen Lori Ochoa is celebrating her birthday today. Born in May 10th, 1958 in Los Angeles, California. Graduated from Grossmont High at El Cajon. She's educated at San Diego State University and Stanford in electrical engineering. There she is in space playing the flute, a flautist. She is in I believe she's in a symphony orchestra there in Houston.
It surprises people when they learn how many astronauts are accomplished musicians.
Yes, and so what are the ones you're thinking of?
Oh, that's a list of them. So yeah.
Yeah, but even Neil Armstrong played a ukulele in the quarantine.
Oh, okay. I had to
deal
do
that they
something to
had.
occupy the
Yeah,
time.
he did there. But yeah, a lot of them love playing stuff in space. Yeah, Marty.
We just found out Julie Payette was a concert pianist and singer.
And singer, yeah, Julie Payette. Yes, she sings in the opera in Canada and stuff like that. Yeah, that was what a great person she was at the visitor center there. And that's why we love talking about it on the show here, because you can't always get to them. And anyway, they're wonderful people. We like humanizing them. Terry.
Yeah.
They have headaches and problems just like we all do.
Yeah, they're people.
But when we say, what are we up to? 597 humans have orbited the Earth in the history of time. That's a small number
Correct.
compared to the 20 billion or so people that have been born in this world. So here is Ellen with looking good with her official photograph there in space, and with her daughter. Okay, not your son, actually, I believe. And that was 12, 13, that's 14, 15 years ago. That baby's all grown up on there. I heard a rumor that out of the Kennedy Space Center is a Lake Ochoa.
Huh.
You know anything about that?
No.
Oh, you don't? Okay. Well, one of the workers told us, in fact, it was Travis Thompson told us that she drove the M113 tank into a lake.
Oh, so
And it got
they named
stopped.
it after
And so
her.
they named after her. So I didn't know if that went to circles around the OPFs or
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
So-
that's one of the things the astronauts like doing was driving that around. So,
Yeah. Well, happy birthday to Ellen Ochoa. We certainly wish you a great golden 65th anniversary birthday. So here's our feature today. All right. The Tail Service mast structures. What are they on, Terry?
yeah,
the-
they're fastened to the mobile launch platform. So there's no orbiter net. This is just the top of the platform before the shuttle is placed on it. But this is the ground connection to the orbiter goes through these two fixtures.
Now, I'm kind of amazed at what is going through these fixtures there. You'd think, and we're going to see the panels on the side, I think most of you are familiar with.
But that's how we actually fill the huge external tank. It goes through through hoses into the aft of the orbiter, and then is piped through the external tank door area into the tank.
Now, wait, it goes, the LOX is on one side and the oxygen's on the other side, you said.
No, the fuel is on one side and the oxygen's on the other side.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's going like backwards into the
going
tank? Or it's
in-
going into the tank at the bottom of
At
the
the
tank,
bottom,
sort
yeah, it's
of.
going into the aft, and then it's piped down to go through the external tank doors.
We'll see pictures of that in a second.
Yeah,
here.
to go into the tank to fill it.
Well, we'll see what he's talking about there in a minute close up, because I didn't know that the ET was filled from the bottom up. Some people might think, Terry, that these are the hold down to hold the shuttle down in some way, but no. Here's a graphic to show you what.
The
holds
only
it
thing
down.
that holds the whole space shuttle to the pad is 4 bolts on each booster.
And
so
those
the-
flanges.
Yeah,
is
so
right
the
at bottom.
the orbiter's not fastened to the mobile launch platform, nor is the tank. So the tank gets fastened to the boosters, and the orbiter gets fastened to the tank.
Now, if you're wondering about it all tipping over, okay, the orbiter 20 tons tipping that whole thing over, hanging on the side. No. Tell us how many tons are in each segment of that.
Oh, I don't know the weight of all those boosters. I'm not-
160 tons, almost 200 tons per segment. So
Of
200
propellant,
times
yeah.
4, there's over 700 tons of propellant on each side of
Yeah,
those
and then
SRBs,
you look
so,
at the weight of
yeah.
that,
So
of that external tank
Yeah.
once it's filled.
as precarious as it looks, that shuttle's hanging off there solid, right?
Yeah,
Can move it around though
with
I've
3
heard.
bolts.
With 3 bolts.
Yeah.
Amazing. We'll do this. We did feature that a little bit. Now, just all of these pipes, conduits, the electrical systems,
200 miles of wiring.
and that weighs a lot. And that's a technology that is coming forward, how to reduce the weight of wire
Yes.
because it weighs so much on vehicles. Think about that. but there they are, close up. Get a perspective with some people there. Okay. Gosh, I'd love to have been that close to the bird just one time.
Yeah, it's odd. In the orbiter processing facility, the vertical tail is the tallest part of the orbiter horizontally. Once you get out to the pad and it's vertically, I cannot walk underneath the tail without having to duck. Because
really?
because it is the lowest part once you get out to the launch pad.
Out there. All right. Well, there's one side of it. Little schematic there, Terry.
Yeah. Now what it does is all of the hardware is connected to the orbiter, and when it separates, it's drawn back inside, and then there's a clamshell door that slams down over the opening before the plume from the boosters and the engines come by.
Uh-huh. And looking down, if you will, at all of these connections.
Yes, you can see all the electrical, pneumatic, and the air conditioning, all the systems being fed into the orbiter to communicate with the orbiter, the boosters, and tank.
And here's what you're concerned about in your OPF and the shuttle garage.
And this is where all those cables you just looked at the pad, this is where they all connect. Now we have a system of those cables also in the orbiter processing facility where we connect. Again, like I say, we're pumping air conditioning into the orbiter.
Wow, and we're going to see the back side of this here as we look at the beautiful picture we've used as the green screen there. Thanks for that choice there, Marty and Selvin. What a neat perspective. Now, I noticed something there that I'm going to ask you about. I noticed the strong backs on the doors.
Yes,
there.
yeah.
So the yellow
they're
helpers there.
Yeah, on the payload bay doors, they're still going to open them at the pad. Anything vertical went in out at the pad. Payloads and that.
So that's there. That comes off in the remote service structure.
That comes off once they rotate the service structure around it, and they are through with operating the doors and got all the payload in. Then those come off.
I love that picture. That's just a great perspective. Love to see that launch there. So as we're looking at that, we're thinking launch. This has to be pretty beefed up to withstand not only the shock of the vibration, which I understand there's a whole test stand to test these things in a simulated launch, but how do they survive the SRB fire?
They do an excellent job. STS-1, there was a lot of cracks in the top of the mobile launch platform, and they had to go add additional steel before STS-2. But no, the tail service masts, I don't know of them ever being upgraded from their original configuration.
That's something to be said. 135 launches. Again, a lot of vents. You can't believe all the ports on this thing. What we're talking about where the tail service mast connects is up here at the upper top there. All right. There's your liquid oxygen fill on the right.
Yep.
Fuselage and OMS pod purge. So there a lot involved with when we say purge, we're getting something out.
Yes.
So it's taking it out of. This would be the landing ones that they would use, or not purge it out after landing?
They purge it out after landing too, but the ability to purge it even at the pad and that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, here's a close-up. Tell us what we're looking at, Terry.
Okay, we're looking on the left. That's what the vehicle side looks like for all the connections and that. And on the right photo, that is the one that's the ground umbilical. So that's what's out at the. That's where everything comes together, and you can see all the portions that mate up to attach to each other.
So you have to have some sort of a mating mechanism to lock them together while they're on the pad.
But then you also have to have that mechanism to be able to release in a hurry.
And that's what a collet, C-O-L-L-E-T receptacle is. And here's a graphic I found of it that was the type used on the shuttle. This is an engineering type used on all kinds of things, from bridges to whatever. So they didn't reinvent the wheel on that, but it's kind of a pinion type of thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I understand it was had not pneumatic, but pyrotechnics involved.
I think the new one has pyrotechnics. This one was pneumatic, I think.
Okay.
But like I said, I'm not an expert on that system.
There's a nice close-up of all of that going together there and how it has to match up. definite pattern there. Obviously, it matched up all the time. No one was beating a hammer on a hose there to get it in there tighter, were they?
No, that wasn't one of the things we used a hammer on.
You didn't use a hammer on anything, did
Oh,
you?
yes, we did.
Oh, okay. Like what?
Different story.
Oh, okay. We'll save that to stay curious sometime there. Fun to look at this at the side of Atlantis. You're right there at that level. On the other orbiters that are on the ground, Discovery and Endeavour, you got to kind of look up at them. But some patina on there too, from its space worthiness there. Not sure what orbiter this is. And there's the blast off of them there. We're going to posted these two pictures here for a reason. There is a Tom Usiak, Mark and his company there, Steve Nolte. Beautiful, beautiful liftoff shot. That close up. And you see the tail mast there. As I go in closer, this is less than a second after liftoff. You know that.
Yeah.
And tell us what you observed there.
Well, everything has released and has gone back into the tail service mast, and the doors have closed, and it happens instantaneously. And you can see the main engine exhaust is already up to the door, and the solid rocket booster exhaust will be there momentarily. That
door's right beneath the rudder there of the vertical stabilizer there. Yeah, look at the blue diamond of the from SSMEs there.
From engine number 1, you can see it real clear right there next to the door.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The orbiter actually, or the shuttle actually, seems to stand still for just a second once the booster's light. You don't realize it, but it's moving. But at first, from a distance you're looking, it looks like it's standing still. And because there's nothing near it to compare it to, you don't realize by the time it clears the top of the pad, it's already doing 100 miles an hour.
Wow. Well, they get it up to space. Yeah, and that takes less 100 miles an hour, and that takes about 4 or 5 seconds. All right. Whereas the Saturn V, which I never saw, lumbered off.
Yeah.
It
was the same thing. It seemed to stand there for just a minute.
10, 15 seconds. So once it comes up to space, okay, we're orbiting space. Of course, we've got to get it down. Let me go back here to talk about being in space and thinking about it. Terry, there's no cover over this in space, is there? Or
No.
for re-entry?
Yep. No, there's not. But this is on the aft sidewall above the wing. So the wing takes the heat on re-entry, because the orbiter doesn't come in like an airplane. It comes in more like a capsule in a nose-up orientation. So where that is way at the back here, above the wing, so it's relatively cool back there compared to the heat that the other tiles in that are going to see. So this area would see less than 700 degrees because we only have it protected with what we call as felt reusable surface insulation.
I was wondering if there's any concern on STS-1 that would really not have any.
I had a lot of concerns on STS-1, but no one talked about the issue back at the...
Well, so that's very interesting. Just look at all that has to be involved with fuel in the external tank, and then purging the oxygen and carbon dioxide,
providing communication and air conditioning. Yes.
So vital part. What is that part of the shuttle called? What did you call that? I couldn't find an acronym for that.
For where that is? That's part of the aft.
They say the aft thingamajigs. The aft ports.
It has a name. It has a name, but it eludes me right now. So
I couldn't find it in any of my book report looking up today. So, but as we get it off there, I just love that shot by the UCX. Isn't that gorgeous?
Yes.
Just wow, the power, the energy, yet the clarity of it all. We'll never see anything like that again, folks. So it lands, and now just the work begins again. What's that thing with the hoses over there?
And then we have a whole convoy of vehicles, but what you see right there are the hoses coming out, going back, and we have to install a frame over that portion from the last photo, and then you hook up, and the orange-looking hoses right there that's the air conditioning going in. We have a requirement to maintain certain temperatures in the orbiter, but actually the astronauts in there want to convert over to ground air conditioning. So they're in the process of shutting down systems inside, where we're hooking up everything on the outside to hook that up, and that will follow the orbiter when it is towed back to the orbiter processing facility, and that stays hooked up. You can see it right there where it's coming. You still see the hoses and the cables. They will still stay attached until we get the orbiter in a position where we can hook up to the normal hookups that are in the OPF.
And there's your panel up there,
Yep.
just under the ohms
Yep.
pod in the upper left-hand corner there.
You can see all the air coming in and the orange hoses in the background.
And it's just, gosh, just how exciting to see a spaceship, and it been to space in front of your eyes, just it's mesmerizing to us all there. We've got Marty bringing up here our list of fans there. Whoa, a long list there. Read off a few there for us there, Mr. Terry White.
Well,
Excellent.
Tom that you've been talking about, USAC, he's on the list today that's watching.
Thank you for your
Dave
photos.
Strange, that's another familiar name.
Dave Stangy. We don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah,
He's
okay. Rebecca McNair, my daughter's on. Travis White, my son, is on there. Carlton
Carlton
Bailey, okay, is on there. Daniel DeJong,
Yep, Daniel DeYoung is a Spirit airline pilot.
Keith Sowell.
Keith Sewell's up in the great Northwest, up in Oregon or Washington or something.
Okay.
Enjoying his retirement there.
Gary Gerald,
Yep. Hey, Gary.
Melissa Pope, Hazel Banks,
Hey,
Cynthia Rossi, Steve Hammer, Christopher Mick, Larry.
Pushkar.
Okay, Plushkar, I'm glad you said that one.
Yeah, me too.
Lauren Abbey
See, let me know
Snyder,
about it. Hey, Larry. Good to hear you out there.
Robert Law, Doug Forrest, Stacy
Engler.
Angler, Bill Whiting, Peggy Hurlbert, my sister,
All right.
Neil.
Neil 1030 there. Yeah.
Okay.
Krasinski, she has been following us a lot. Thank you. Martez.
Yeah.
Dora Luz Morello and Ophelia Sautrels in France, and Tom Celentano. And I know you supported our auction, Tom. Thank you for that. But, yep, what a great way. We get your family in here. We almost bump the ratings up there.
And I need to send a good job out to my grandson, Lane, because he just finished his first year of school.
Awesome, Lane. Going to second grade?
Well, no, he was in a preschool, but still, it was his first year.
What was that name, Marty? I just,
Christina Smith.
okay, Christina Smith. Thank you. And a question or comment?
Yeah, we got a question from Gary Jarrell. After landing, what was the time frame of getting all of the hoses attached to the orbiter?
It took a while because the first thing we did after the orbiter came to a stop was we had people go out in special suits and go out and sniff all around the orbiters, around all the thrusters, everything, to make sure there was no gases or fluids leaking that would be hazardous to people. And the next thing is we hooked up huge blowers in front of the orbiter. We had to get the orbiter cooled down. It had just seen the extreme heat of reentry, so parts of it were still very warm. And like I said, the crew was going through their post-landing checklists and securing everything they needed to do. And so when it was safe to get around there, then in came the convoy of support trucks and technicians in special work stands that would reach up to those and go in and start hooking everything up. So I don't have a time frame because if you were out there on the runway, everybody was busy and I wasn't checking my watch. So
usually an hour or so is when the astronauts come out, though, right?
Yeah.
So from there, the sniffers to safe everything. Well, the SLS rocket also has a tail service mast, just one of them there on the left. You guys want to bring that up bigger there? Of course, everything worked well there. Kind of a little different basket or something to throw things in there, but it's a huge thing there, isn't it?
yes.
And so we have enjoyed this program with Terry White about the tail service mast. I've learned a lot, and again, one of those iconic things that's a part of the shuttle and its legacy. And now you know as much about it as probably there is to know about it, at least what you know about it. Terry, thank you very much.
Sure.
Here's a great picture of you in probably 2011. I think that's the end because of your shirts you have there.
Yes.
But thank you so much for supporting us at Shuttle Fest. Our Shuttle Fest 2 is successful a lot because of people like you getting the word out to shuttle workers. We are empowered to do Shuttle Fest 3. It'll be April 13th, 2024 at the same Hyatt Place. And we're going to feature the Astro 1 mission for its communications challenge, 1, and then two planetary missions, STS-30 that was Magellan and STS-34 that was Galileo. Both were RTG spacecraft, radioactive thermal generators that created kind of a protest around here.
Yes.
And they both could have been sent to their planets by a Centaur rocket that nobody wanted in that shuttle payload bay.
Yeah, we were going to load a Centaur rocket inside the payload bay to launch its
Fully
space.
fueled with
Yes,
liquid oxygen and hydrogen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant idea there. But we'll talk about that at Shuttle Fest 3, and thank you so much because your support for us. These events are successful. So let's roll up that rocket footage one more time and watch a beautiful launch there. As I say, thank you, Terry White, for all you do here, and another great Stay Curious. Marty and Selvin, we have anything to clean up on our Streamlabs?
Well, not really. I guess clean up. Brian Anderson is watching. He's from Kitchener, Ontario, Canada. Avid watcher of our program.
Thank you very much up in Canada.
And I would like to thank all of the people, even if you don't let us know who it is watching. Thank you for watching the show.
We appreciate you. And YouTube is where we have monetized our program here. We've got people from about 12 different countries watching our show. We'll kind of get into details of that one time on there. But thank you for your comments. Thank you all for a great job today. And on behalf of Terry and our executive director, Karan Conklin here, I'm Mark Marquette saying I can't wait to see you tomorrow to bridge the space between us.